Well, it's a very good evening to our viewers out there. It is Friday night down here in Sydney town in Australia. It'll be quite early in the morning, 2 a.m. I would say on Friday morning for you guys over in San Francisco on the West Coast. Very exciting news for the San Francisco 49ers today. We have traded for Christian McCaffrey. Adds another weapon to our offensive team. Is this the wrinkle that Kyle Shanahan was after? We were talking about it in other shows that what is he going to do? What's something that he can do to bring this team back to the offensive, will lift the offensive game so that we could start really being a Super Bowl contender. Jono, how are you? Rod, how are you? Must be both excited.
I'm good, mate. I am. Yeah, I'm pumped. I absolutely love what just happened today because we're a team forever a team not to make big splash moves prior to free agency, and this is the biggest I can remember. And I'm just super pumped I'm already having visions of Debo and CMC sitting in the backfield and Kyle scheming up something ridiculous. And look out, we're all in.
Fantastic. What about you, Rod? How are you feeling, mate?
Well, when the news dropped today, I was on the bus coming home from sport with about 72 kids, and one of the other teachers is an NFL nut like me, and we both our phones started pinging at the same time, and it reminded me of like when we made the big splash for Trey Lance, when we made the big splash for D Ford. Like, not that the D Ford thing turned out so well for us, but the fact that we just are in the market and having a dig, and this organization are always looking for new ways to improve and develop. And I just love that. I love that, that about the front office of this place.
Yeah, look, it has definitely been. It reminded me of the Trey Lance trade as well. It's something that it's almost Rams-esque to be doing something like this. I'd never thought Kyle would do. Look, I thought there was something big was going to happen. I didn't think it was going to be on the offensive side of the ball. I thought on the defense. Well, when I say the offensive side of the ball, I didn't think it was going to be in the skill positions in the backfield and in our receiver core. I thought it might have been on the offensive line or a DT or something like that. But this is definitely a sign that Kyle wants to get something done this year. And based on his record and everyone calling him a genius, everyone's been in his throat this week saying, is he the person that we thought he was? And this is going to happen every time this team has a loss. But I guess we should celebrate. What I want to do, look, I'm a little bit sus on this, and I'm happy that it has happened. I'm happy that they've had a swing for the fences, and that is something that I'm always happy to be aggressive. I'm going to just show you guys something now, and because I don't want to be a downer, this is an exciting time. But I just want to go because on a banged up team and running backs that they're kind of a dime a dozen on the Niners team. I just want to go through. How about we do this? We'll go through some of the injury concerns I have, and then we'll finish off with some positive stuff from you guys, so we keep the momentum going. So I'll share my screen and there's just some injury concerns that I have here. In October, so in 2016, obviously he was at Stanford. He was he's a local boy. And you guys can talk about the Shanahan McCaffrey connection. But in September 2020, a pedal ankle high sprain grade 3. Week 2's loss to the Buccaneers, missed 6 games. Same year, November, shoulder AC joint, missed 4 games. December 9, 2020. So it all happened in 2020. It was a year that he didn't play much football. Missed 4 games to the thigh glute strain. Last year, strained hamstring in week 3. His Panthers win over the Texans, missed 5. And then he rolled his ankle in the week 12 loss to the Dolphins, and they shut him down for the season. So you can understand my concerns, right?
Oh, I can understand that. Have you considered his 2018, 2019, 2017 season?
So that's what I want to hear.
48 from 48 games.
Well, there you go.
So look, you got to look at the long spread, and 49ers are backing that this was a blip in the radar for a career that had prior to 2020 had not had any issues in the NFL.
The other thing to say, Pete, is he's coming into a system where he may not have to be the every down feature back. He can be, like I'm just excited to see how Kyle is going to implement that offense with all the weapons that we have there. And he doesn't necessarily have to be that, he's never been really a bell cow, but that the feature back is the number one back. We've got perhaps 2 or 3 people who can play that role, running back by committee. He can come out of the backfield. There's so many, positionless football is what Kyle Shanahan looks for, and he is the perfect piece for positionless football.
Yeah, he's in terms of his receiving ability, he's a top line receiver, which we haven't had as that running back, and automatically when Elijah Mitchell is well, he goes back into RB2 role, which is probably where he's better suited. You can see what happened when he was asked to step up into that RB1 position. The longevity of him was just wasn't there. He's not built that way. He's not built to be used that way. So I think automatically we get a better RB1 in the position that can do a lot of the things that Rod's talking about positionless wise. So you can move him all over the place, and then you get a better RB2 situation with Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I agree, Jono. Good.
And you look at the draft capital that they've given up, and you're probably going, my good, that's a lot to give up. But I know that from what I've read, Rams were in this right to the very, very end. So we probably did pay a little bit more than what we would have liked to have done. But would you give up one of those 3s to ensure that he doesn't end up on the Rams?
Yes.
Wouldn't we be filthy tonight if we're sitting here on this podcast saying Rams have just picked up CMC?
Yeah, it'd be a totally different vibe.
We're just so up and about at the moment, and with if knowing that had he gone to sort of our major opponent in the division for this year, we would have all just been shaking our heads, going, "What are they doing?"
Yeah. And on the same day that Odell Beckham ends up at the Vikings, the Rams all of a sudden. The Rams
I didn't know that.
Pending physical, he's off to the Vikings.
I didn't know that either.
A move has to be made.
Yes.
And we had to win this one. So if you break it down here now, we've got Christian McCaffrey under contract until 2025. This year, we're only going to be paying about $650,000 against our salary cap, still giving us $5 million space. So it's not obtrusive for us to make any other further moves if we want to pick up something in free agency, if something around the defensive tackle position is not quite there. On top of that, the remaining cash for him is $36.25 million after that for 3 years with 0 guaranteed, which means that we can restructure this into a team-friendly deal, giving us what we need in terms of what we have in terms of our future contracts for our other players. So I don't find that to be obtrusive or off-putting for us at all. This is not a gun for hire. This is a deal that sets him here for this season and then 3 more after it, and gives Trey Lance the safety blanket that he's going to need when he comes back next year. So I love the move. Yes, we give up a second, a third, and a fourth this year and a 5th next year, but you also need to take into effect the compensatory picks that we have. We've got 2/3 for Salah and McDaniels coming back to us in the 2023 draft. We've got the DJ Jones 5th round pick for losing him in free agency to the Broncos. We've got the 7th round free one for losing Arden Key in free agency. We've still got 8 picks in the draft. We can still move up and down the board, and we probably don't. We're a deep enough squad where we don't need 8 picks in the draft.
Yeah,
we can start moving around in that and pick and choose who we want and what positions that we actually need. I think we're set up. I love it.
Fantastic. I love that, Jono.
No, he's done his research. I love that. It's just turned my opinion right around.
He might be after Parag's job, I think.
Yes, absolutely. But I'd love him to get, and we've been told this and we've heard this, like it's a red zone package, right? If he comes in.
Yeah, like, and that's the best part, is that, like, I was like, all right, we'll see. We're ready for the Rams. Let's go. We'll give him sort of 10 days. He's flying out. I think he flew out tonight.
He flew out tonight
to San Fran. So he's on the plane. He's coming home. And then all of a sudden it breaks that he's going to be expected to be put into the game in some red zone packages and things. I'm pumped.
Can I make a point, boys? Look what it's done to three Aussie blokes sitting here in front of a screen in Australia. Imagine what the locker room is feeling.
Yeah.
Did you see that clip I posted from Drake Johnson?
Yeah, Drake Johnson. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah.
And
like,
we got a white boy. That's a snowflake.
I actually didn't. I didn't give us a lot of hope of beating the Chiefs this week. But I tell you what, this move today, in my opinion, just the mental boost that's given the locker room, I think we'll just come charging into Levi on Sunday and just give them a red hot go.
It's put a spring. It has to have put a spring in their step. On top of the fact that we got Harbaugh is coming back. The guys they're celebrating the 2012 Super Bowl. There's going to be a bit of energy in that stadium.
Even if he just suits up for, just as you say, boys, a couple of third down packages in the red zone, or a couple of red zone packages, I think that's just fantastic. What that'll bring to this team, this locker room, I just think I can't wait.
Yeah, well, if you boys would have been teaching today, but there was so many, like the Niners Nation boys were instant reacting. Grant Cohn was instant reacting. Colin Coward was instant reacting. It was the talk of the town, obviously, in the NFL land. The boys on Niners Nation, Stats Guerrera and Jason Aponi and Jordan Elliott, they were just going off their brains. They were really, really stoked with the move. And it probably people who know this show and watch this show know my love and affection for JWJ. So my initial reaction was a little bit sad for him, but this is about winning. This is a business. And so, they've made a move. They've made a business move that I think. What I really liked, what you said there, Jono, was it's really gonna set up Trey. He's gonna help Trey, and I find that he's probably a guy that doesn't have the baggage of the old core of people that are like not too sold on Trey and all that sort of stuff. He comes in fresh blood. He's going to be all over Trey like a rash, hopefully, in terms of his support of him and all that sort of thing. So before we move on to the preview, boys, anything else that you'd like to say about the trade?
Look, I will. I heard this today, and I'll run with this. I completely disagree with it, and I just want to sort of, Pete, because I know you put some stuff on the chat today about about your thoughts on the trade originally.
Yep.
I listened to BD Peacock and Eric Crocker today, and they had a sort of an emergency.
Yeah, they did too. Yeah, they did. Yeah. No, I didn't catch it.
So
I've watched the first 5 minutes of it.
So BD's take on it all was, you've got the most injured running back in the league coming to the most injury-prone team in the league in the most injury-prone position in the league. Now, he got a lot of heat, and he just got a lot of flack and a lot of, pushback on that for him. But I just wanted to share that because make you feel a bit better, Pete, because his thinking was in line with yours, whereas Eric was a bit like Jono and I am more up and about.
Yeah. I mean, VD bangs on about that, and I love that podcast. He's not a
massive fan of
He's like, don't
big money run backs.
Don't draft high for running backs, and don't give running backs a second contract.
Yeah.
That's his mantra.
Yeah.
So,
and that's
but I'll say, like, from the bigger thing, it's for a week where we've kind of been going like, where is this team heading? Obviously, behind the doors, they feel like whatever injuries have happened to them at the moment, that there is going to be light at the end of the tunnel. These aren't long-term. Besides E-Man, these aren't potentially a lot of long-term injuries. They're that kind of little niggly 1-2 weekers. So they've made a move here that signals to, I think, to everybody that we are all in, and we're going to go at this because we feel like it's now and it's go time, and that probably gives me and hopefully a lot of fans a lot more confidence about where we're heading.
Absolutely, mate.
Yeah, that's a great full stop on the Christian McCaffrey stuff. So, boys, we do have, as Rod alluded to, we do have the Chiefs on the weekend, Super Bowl 50. Was it 50? 52, 53, 50. Anyway, in 2019 Super Bowl that we played the Kansas City Chiefs. I watched the highlights again today, broke my heart again a little bit.
Why did you do that?
We went away.
You like pain, don't you, Pete?
Oh well, I was just looking at it just to see, some of this, because Jimmy was throwing a little bit longer in 2019, and he just hasn't been doing that for a while. Like, I don't know if you remember the Rams game where we came back from 4 points down. He had some money plays he had some big third down strikes that were at least 20 to 25 yards. But anyway, we're playing the Chiefs this weekend. We're underdogs. We're 2.5-point dogs, which started at 3. So there's been some money for us. And I wouldn't surprise if that goes to, depending on, before the kickoff, what sort of insider knowledge gets to Vegas in terms of, that might even come into 2 points as a spread because of the McCaffrey factor. So the one thing again, it's about, the title of the video, will Kyle ever trust Jimmy's arm again? Are we going to get good or bad, Jimmy? Let's just add a few stats here just to look at it from a objective point of view. We got, Patty Mahomes, look at that so far, nearly 750 yards, 17 TDs, only 4 interceptions. Jimmy, 1,153 yards. He's almost got a third more yards, 7 TDs and 3 interceptions. Obviously, we've got a different offense. Andy Reid is a Bill Walsh prodigy, so he's going to throw the ball, and he's got the quarterback to do it. Edwards, Hellier, 250. This is where we pip him. 256 yards, 2 TDs, 4.3. Jeffrey Wilson, 400 yards. Even again, 30% more, 2 TDs, for nearly 5 yards, and then receiving. Look at Travis Kelce, 41 receptions, 455 yards, 7 touchdowns compared to our best receiver, which again shows you that about Jimmy's arm and what.
He's phenomenal. He's phenomenal. It's like, but it's interesting that Travis Kelce. I think the team it was interesting, just sort of around like the team that probably did the best job on Travis Kelce would be. It might be a shock to you. Is the Raiders?
It was the Raiders.
Yeah. They allowed 4 touchdowns against him. Like he got 4 of those 7 were against the Raiders, and you're thinking, how can that be possible? But they limited him to 25 yards. So it was about him in the red zone. Like obviously he is danger number 1, and you know that he's going there, and that's the hardest thing. You know that Patty Mahomes is going to Kelce, and you can do everything in your power to stop it. But when you can still get there, I mean, that just shows what a remarkable player he is.
Mm.
Well, this is the thing, right? Like, so there was talk today about the trust that Mahomes has, the mistrust that he has in other receivers other than Travis Kelce. Juju Smith-Schuster got some last week, and so there's a couple of slides later on, a couple of graphics that we've got later on to look at based on what Juju Smith-Schuster got last week. And again, looking at the trending worm, his receiving yards was going up. So, what do you think we'll see this week from Jimmy, boys? Is it going to be more of the same, or is it going to be back to our complementary football where we run the ball more?
Well, can I just say, we didn't lose last week's game because of Jimmy.
No, we did not.
And, if he connects on one of those bombs, on 2 of those bombs, on the one that Ayuk took where Brendel had the penalty, had us marching back 50 yards downfield. Like, if any of those, like if that first one to who was it? To Ray, comes off. You boys alluded to it last week in the potty. We're in the virtually in the red zone, first down, 20 yards out, aren't we?
Rod, yeah. I'll throw a stat at you.
Yeah.
Jimmy Garoppolo's, he has 11% of his pass attempts have been dropped this season. He's first of all quarterbacks in the league for drops on his passes. Do you know who's second?
Who?
No.
Trey Lance with 10%. What does that tell you? Our wide receivers are not doing their job.
They're not, mate. They're not. They really buggered Trey Lance up, mate, in the preseason. And you're right. We
sit there 1 and 2. Our two quarterbacks highest drop rates from quarterbacks.
Yeah. Doesn't that say something?
You can't win games. You can't win games if your wide receivers aren't catching balls.
No. And Deebo Samuel's got a drop rate of almost 30%.
Yeah,
not great. Whereas watching the highlights of the Chiefs game, the Super Bowl 2 years ago, or in 2019-20, he didn't drop in that game. He didn't drop a pass. He was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's want to have a quick look on what's on the next one. So, looking at Jimmy's rate for 2022, it's not bad. 94.8. It's sub 60, sub 70 is not what you want. He's up near the 100 mark. Week 6, he had one of his better games in terms of yards, 296, two TDs, but the two interceptions. So, the good Jimmy, bad Jimmy. I think last week we had good Jimmy.
Well, one was on him last week. One was on him, Pete. Sorry, I interrupted, but that first one was a Hail Mary just on half time.
Well, that's right. That one, exactly. That wasn't, you can't really consider that an interception. But the other thing I will raise is that there has been situations, especially at Carolina and in the Rams game, that he did throw some dodgy balls that were dropped. But again,
we've been talking about, it just doesn't seem like, I think this is probably an effect of not having that preseason. I mean, it was never meant to be his preseason time to be able to spend time with the wide receivers and find some rhythm and things. But there's some things where they're not on the same page, where in terms of the timing, the drops, the scramble that he made out of the pocket, which I love to see in the game, where he's telling Kittle, go to the back, and he runs flat. And they're just not on the same page. And he puts it exactly where he told him to go. And Kittle didn't do it. Kittle didn't listen. There are some things but I think they can, and I don't want to sort of bang on being negative, but because I do think that that's stuff that you can clean up.
Yeah, I reckon too. There is something too. Who was talking about it? I think it was one of the 95.7, the game. I think it was Bonta Hill and his sidekick, the Morning Rush, talking about that, there is something going on inside that locker room and it was surrounding the words that George Kittle said after the game, saying that, we're the San Francisco 49ers football team. We play hard, we play tough, we play really effective football. Some of the players out there in positions weren't giving their best. And, there was questions around, was he saying that towards Kyle? Because Kyle on the next day in his press conference call said, no, I disagree with that. So in direct contradiction to what George was saying. I don't
mind that. I don't mind that.
Yeah.
Call the players out. Call them out if you think.
Call them out.
My take on that, boys, was that George was talking about a couple of blokes had opportunities to step up and become superstars on the day. Ray, perhaps who's the Charlie Warner. Doesn't catch a lot of footballs. He's just generally in there for his blocking ability. If those two boys take those balls, we're talking about them all week.
Yeah.
And
100%.
Maybe George was alluding to them. I don't know what's going on in his head.
Yeah.
I hope they all spent plenty of time on the jugs machine this week.
Yeah. Yeah. At full ball.
Yeah.
To where, I heard one day that Alex Smith, when in his comeback, and this is to do with receivers catching balls, Alex Smith, when he was coming back to play NFL, some of the receivers he brought in, it ripped the skin of their fingers off the bone. He threw it that fast and hard.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
Love to see it.
That's incredible.
Well, back to our topic that's running across the bottom. I would think we saw 3 opportunities for Jimmy to air the ball out last week, and I'm hoping that's where Kyle's going to go with this week, because let's face it, we're going to try and establish the run. We'll talk about keys to victory later. Obviously, we're going to try and establish the run against this side, but we're not going to get into a shootout with them without airing the ball out. And, even in a shootout, we're not going to beat them in a shootout. But, establishing the run with the occasional deep ball, I think, to keep them guessing, keep them on their toes in terms of not being able to load the box and get up and stop our run. I think that's necessary to beat these guys.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Jono?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, 100%. But just looking at Mahomes is from, we looked at it before: 17 TDs, 4 interceptions last week, 338 yards. But it's a 2-to-2 interception to touchdown rate. So they give him some pressure, and they schemed up the defense well. They had a bit of a spy system happening, whereby they were sort of, I guess it's hard for me to articulate in an NFL terminology type way, but I just know that they just watch the replay, that the way they schemed up their defense, they kept a couple of players. It was almost like they were hiding behind the line of scrimmage and just appearing at the right time to get the interception. So the next one I wanted to get,
just on Mahomes, like, I think if we can limit his time in position, I know that's a cliche, but if we can get these guys, like if we can get Bosa back, if Samson Ebukam gets through the week, if Drake Jackson's good to go, and we can start to sort of see this machine of the defensive line start humming again. We're giving him only enough time to have to try to make a play within that sort of 1 to 3 second range, and not giving him any more than that where he can get out and scramble. I think we put ourselves in with a good shot. Any game where he has had equal touchdown to interception rate this season, they've lost. So the 2-2 against the Bills, and then 1-1 against the Colts, they lost. So that's something to sort of consider around if you're looking for a kind of a trend in what we see with Paddy.
Yeah. Well, that brings us on to our defensive line, and so just looking at what that look at we've got our allowance rate across the board is 79.1 for any quarterback, which is phenomenal. We're only allowing 63 yards through the air per attempt. Only 4 TDs allowed, and we've taken 5 interceptions. So
I think, John, what you said last week about the defense, it's a shame that they have last week's game on their record.
Yeah.
And I think that'll hurt them. That'll be a real sting, because these blokes are, they're very proud footballers. They love this organization and they love playing for the NFL. And I really do believe that we'll see a turnaround. And like we can't underestimate the impact of Bosa, even if he's not getting there, the pressure he puts on, and the fact that he's being double teamed on almost every down, and how that frees up other people, Ebukam and Menahu and those fellas, and they get more of an opportunity. Drake Jackson, equal rookie sack leader in half the number of downs that Atkinson,
Aiden Hutchinson.
Hutchinson, the Detroit guys played. He's played twice the downs, and they're equal in sacks. Now, you can't tell me that Jackson's opportunities for sacks don't come down to Bosa's presence on the field.
Yeah,
absolutely.
What's his injury status? Because I know that he had like a calf or something.
Yeah, he had something with his knee, but my understanding is he was back at practice today. Whether it be limited or full, they kind of rested him on the Wednesday, and he was good to go.
So in terms of our D line, it's what we've got: Bosa back,
It's definitely trending in the way Bosa is back, Ebukam is back, Drake Jackson is back, Flanagan Fowles is back in the linebacking core. Jimmy Ward's been wearing that club. He's worn that for 2 days now, and they believe he's trending. Hufunga's out of progressing well through the concussion protocols that they've got to go through.
He's a big in.
I think Matt Mayoko, if you check his tweet, he put up like an easy guide as to how the process they've got to go through with that. The big question mark is in defense is Mooney Ward. He hasn't practiced. I'm sure he's stinging a play. And we've got Verrett's there. So, but yeah, it'd be nice to have Mooney Ward just because you know what he brings to that
he's
team.
Kansas City,
and it's his ex-Kansas City. He would be like running through a training drill.
Yeah, well, that's right. You'd imagine the intel he's brought to the table this week, which will be obviously very, very handy for D'Amico Ryan. So, all right, D-line's looking pretty good. So we're happy with our D-line.
Trending well. Looking forward to tomorrow's final report.
Yeah, 100%. Wanted to talk about our receiving core and not just on our side, their side as well. Debo, as we've discussed, and what you said, that was a very telling stat that you brought up before, Jono, in regard to our receivers being the one, the most drop balls, in the league. Trey Lance being number 2, Jimmy being number 1. Obviously they're going to be on the jugs machine this week. If I just go on to the next one, I'll add this. And just going to on their side of the ball. So Kelsey being very well trusted, but Juju Smith-Schuster looking like a threat. Because, last week, look at that, 5 targets, 5 receptions, 113 yards. Pretty good, right? That's, for Debo, it's sort of 8 targets, 5 receptions, and there's not
his touchdown, they got him on the scramble. He broke a tackle and sort of went a long distance. I think the Chiefs are having to find probably a different way to move the ball or pass the ball around with the loss of Tyreek Hill. Like they don't have that any team's going to feel the loss of someone like him. So I think they're kind of finding other ways in terms of dinking and dunking their way downfield a little bit, and they're not going for that huge. They're not able to go for that huge explosive play as frequently as they have in the past. But they still, obviously, sitting at 4 and what are they 4-2 at the moment?
Yes.
They had an obscure loss to the Colts and a great game against the Bills. They're still being able to move the ball efficiency. And Patty Mahomes, you've seen he's got 17 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. They're efficient. They're efficient if nothing else.
Yeah,
unbelievable. And then looking at these two guys, so Kittle or Kelsey. So go back to Kittle. This year he's had 45 per. He's at trending up towards 50 yards per game. Last week he got 10 targets, 8 receptions, 83 yards. So again, he's trending upwards. But then you got this guy, 10 targets, 8 receptions, 108 yards. But he's got 75.8. That's phenomenal. But you're right, John, what you brought up in terms of the 4 touchdowns that he had. I forgot about that, and that's something that is almost like a stats. Like stats are only as good as the story that they're telling, right? If you can make a stat, tell a story that you want it to. Sometimes not all the time, but those four against the Raiders is definitely something that is contributing to his high TD rate, but. What do you think? As much as I love George, I just think Travis gets separated. He's a better separator, and he's longer, and he seems to be able to get his arms up and out of the way of people trying to do some pass breakdowns. What are your thoughts on Kittle and Kelsey, boys? I'll go to Jono. To Rod.
I think they're asked to do completely different things on the field.
Yeah.
And the proof of the pudding is in the stats. If you swapped them and George was put into this KC side with Mahomes, he could do everything Kelsey could do. Don't get me wrong. I'm with you, Pete. I think Kelsey's moved ahead. in terms of that 1-2 race, and maybe even put someone like Darren Waller's up there as well. But in my mind, I back when we played in the Super Bowl, I used to argue with a lot of KC fans about the fact that George was a better TE than
I think in 2019 he was.
Yeah, but I think they've both been asked to play different roles for the benefit and or the detriment of their team. And just before I move over to Jono, it is National Tight End Day on Sunday.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
And you got the two best in the game.
A lot of things in our favour, boys, at home this weekend. Like, I mean, I'm always going to be biased towards the Niners. We're always going to be biased towards them. But bloody hell, like National Tight End Day, Harbaugh's back, McCaffrey's in. It's just there's going to be a lot of good energy up at from here up at Levi's. Jono, what are your thoughts, mate, on Kittle or Kelsey? Kittle or Kelsey?
Yeah, it depends what you love about the tight end position. So if you love a receiving tight end, then you're gonna be falling in love with Kelsey. But if you like a tight end that can get in there and do that tough stuff and become that sixth man on that O-line, then Kittle's your guy. I do think in terms of what the fan wants to see, that swings to Kelsey because that's what you want to see. But I will say that, I mean, the main reason that the Raiders had a fair bit of success in terms of being able to limit his yards in the game, and it was because they put an emphasis on chipping him at the line.
Yeah.
So because he's not that typical blocker. They chipped him and they kept on going back at it and doing it hard, that it kind of took him out of his routes and out of that thing. So I hope the 49ers took note of that and are looking to do that on Sunday.
And we all know that George is a pretty special sort of team man and the energy he brings to the locker room, and he's one of the leaders in the locker room, and you follow him on the socials, and he's just, he seems like an amazing bloke. But he's a fairly selfless character, which is rare in NFL circles these days. Whereas where people are all about accolades and yards and points and personal achievements, and here you get a guy who gets as much enjoyment out of, as he calls it, moving people against their will and pancaking offensive linemen and D lineman, I should say, and I just like, he's just such a great fellow, such a great team man, and you can't help but love him. So I wouldn't swap him for Kelsey.
No, not in this. I think what you said before, right at the start of your conversation, Rod, was the perfect example of they're both. George is right for this offense. Kelsey's right for that offense. It's horses for courses, and I think Darren Waller's probably a bit more complete if you think about his blocking and his receiving ability. Got a soft spot for Darren Waller too. He's a man. He's risen from the ashes too. So, So,
and I think, Pete, just before we move off this topic, the people who are making the comparisons obviously are just looking at box scores and.
That's right.
They don't watch 49ers football. They don't watch KC football. They just look at the yards, look at that. They don't see what George does week in, week out. And I will put a caveat on that, saying I do get frustrated when I see him being targeted 4 times in a game. Breaks my heart.
Because we know what we can do. We know what he can do when he gets the ball in hand, and I think that was evident even more so on the last weekend's game. So just wanted to do some sort of final matchups and keys to victory here. So to get a couple more topics to go, keys to victory and final predictions. So if we look at these matchups here, guys, we actually match up really, really well with these stat lines. So out of the 10 stat lines there, it's a 6-4 win to us. So the first one, obviously, we that it's in the KC's corner. The next one's ours. The next 2 is in KC's corner. The next 4 is ours. Then it's KC, and then it's it's ours. So you look at these things. Points per game, obviously they've got more. Points against, we're going to win that because we have D. Total yards per game, they got a great offense with a big, strong-armed quarterback. Passing yards per game allowed, 4. Sorry, we don't win that one, but rushing yards per game, we there's that, and I don't want to go through it. People can see them on the screen there, but in terms of the key matchups, and I'll throw the floor open. When I looked at this, I was quite pleasantly surprised that matching up here, we're looking pretty good. What do you think?
I mean, looking at the top 2 stats, stand out for me. The fact that they're scoring almost 30 points per game, and we're limiting teams to 15 points a game. So, which says to me that they even if they sort of blow us out a little bit and we bring them back a little bit, we're looking at them scoring about 20 points.
Yeah.
So we've just got to score more than 20 points, and we're 20.3. So we'll talk about our final prediction in the end. But I'm looking sort of a score in both teams in the 20s at this stage.
Yeah, nice one. What is any more thoughts on your keys to victory, Rod?
Keys to victory. I just I feel like I think about this when I get off this podcast. I say it every week. Establish the run. That's point number 1. Don't go away from the run when we get down by a touchdown. Just stick with the run. That's number 1. I think our D coming back to what it does best, and the third thing is let's see all of these weapons on our offense finally click. Pete, you used the word clunky to describe our offense last week, and it's perfect. Like, we've just been clunky. Like, I talk to my NFL buddies at work, and they just shake their head when they go, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, Trent Williams up the front. You've got Juice in the backfield. Like, these guys are a top 3, top 5 in the NFL. In every one of those positions. Yeah. And yet, frustratingly enough, we're sitting at 20 points per game. Like, and please, this is not a Jimmy bash. I love Jimmy. This is not about me bashing Jimmy, but let's get this offense running a little bit smoother than it has been running. And establish the run, and don't go away from that run too early.
Yeah. Good call. I like it. Jono?
Absolutely. Like, the running the ball has to happen. I think in any game this year, in those 2 games that the Chiefs lost, if the teams ran 27 times or more against the Chiefs, they won. Every single time a team runs less than that, they lose. So you got to stick with it, and you don't need to be going at a huge clip. Like, the Colts ran the ball 27 times and only had 3 yards per carry and still won the game.
Yeah,
they controlled the clock. They controlled the time of possession. They controlled the number of plays, and that's the way that you can put Patrick Mahomes under pressure. Is if you just keep winning those little battles. So you're winning all that, and then you don't, and then you sort of keep keeping him 50-50 in the turnover battle. Every game that they've lost the turnover battle, they lost. Okay, so that's part of it. That's part of it with the Chiefs. For me, it's about I spoke about it before. Stop the drop. Stop dropping the damn ball. Okay, take your opportunities every time you get them, so that we can be more efficient in third down. Okay, if we can be efficient on our third down, then we're good to go. I'd love us to get healthy and stay healthy. We're trending in the right way. I don't want to see a situation where the medical cart's on the field in the opening series and we're carting blokes off like it was, buddy, we're in the middle of Vietnam. So we just need to make sure. Like, I mean, I know that's nothing that we can necessarily control, but it would just be nice to see if we could flip this bug that seems to be catching at the moment pretty early. So I just along with the run, it's about just stop the drops. You cannot go into this situation and keep dropping the ball.
Yeah, look, I could just echo what you guys said. Establish the run, stop the drops. I think the turnover battle is going to be huge. I think the biggest thing with us is our turnovers. Like Kyle hates them so much, but we are one of the teams that turns over the ball the most. If we don't have any like if you look at this season, when we don't turn the ball over, we win.
Yeah,
that's the fact of that's the blueprint, right? But what you said, Jono, what I think was, if we don't turn the ball, the keys to victory are we don't turn the ball over, we run more than 27 times, so that's establishing the run, and our skill positions, our receiving core, they catch the ball. We can play complementary football, and the D will do their job. So
the Chiefs leak yardage. There are going to be some opportunities here for us to be able to sort of get the ball in our passing game and get down the field. We've just got to take the chances when your number's called. Do your job.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to final predictions, guys. I'll kick this one off. Look, it's tough as it. Look, I think we're going to go down, but I think it's going to be really tight. I think what you were saying before. I think it's going to be in the 20s. I think it's going to be. What I think will happen is, I think that our offense will look a lot better. I think we'll play a lot more complementary football. I think that Mahomes just might be just too good for us on the day, and I think we'll go down 27-24. But in saying that, it won't be the disaster that has, it won't be. It'll be like a loss that we do not despair over. You know what I mean? It'll be like, okay, we did our best. We didn't turn over the ball. We'll just beat by the better team on the day. That's my prediction.
Jono?
Yeah, I'm the same. This is the first time I'm gonna pick the 49ers to go down, as painful as that is. But I have my doubts about what's happening on offense, and I need to see it first. And I'm happy to be proven wrong, but I feel like they're gonna slip behind in this one, and I'm predicting Kansas City Chiefs to win this one 23-19.
Okay. Boys, I all week have thought that I was going to come on here and predict a KC win. But the events of today have made me flip, and I'm actually 27-24 the other way, Pete.
Nice.
27-24 to us, and I think we'll win it. And I'm basing that purely on the fact that I think our locker room will be up and about, and I'm confident that will be the case.
I love it, Rod.
Yeah, I do, mate. And look, I would not be surprised, and that's what I'm hoping for. So look, guys, I think we've covered a great deal of territory tonight. I think as each show goes along, just for us personally, I think we're starting to really our worm is trending up in terms of how we're presenting these shows, and I really enjoyed tonight's conversation. Obviously, there's a bit of joy in the air because of the trade, but I just wanted to say thank you very much for your time. For the viewers out there, thank you for your support. We'll see you tomorrow night for best bets. So until then, it's bye for now from the 49ers DNA team.
Go Niners.
Go those Niners.